Excellent. So we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Can everyone see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm proud that I remember to record. I always struggle with that. So I'm excited that a lot of you guys have signed in. Everybody that has attended my webinars in the past knows that I do post a recording on my YouTube channel. So if they don't get to come live, if they register, I send them the link. So that's why you may have people that don't come that registered. And let me see if I can make it so that people stop dinging when they come in. Mute. Yes, no more dinging. Okay, so I titled this, So You Want to Become a CVPM, because I thought it was corny and funny, and I'm a corny, funny person. So what I wanted to do was really bring something that could help everybody understand not only what a CVPM is, but how you can go about becoming one and why it could be helpful to you and all of those things. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And normally I don't have my face on the first slide, but because it's my VHMA professional photo that has the old logo on it, I thought, well, it's appropriate for me to do that. So that's why I did that. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Melissa Tompkins Lewis, and I am a certified veterinary practice manager, hence why I can talk about this. A little bit about me. I've been in the field for over 20 years. I've worked general practice, specialty with emergency and also emergency only. I am a certified veterinary practice manager, as I mentioned. I'm also a professional in human resources for the state of California. We are the only state in the country that has its own professional designation because our laws are so complicated. And for those of you who are in California, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I am also a certified compassion fatigue professional. It's not specific to veterinary, although I think it would be really cool if we did have one because we have a lot of compassion fatigue stuff in our field. So that's why I went ahead and did that. And I do recommend it actually to others because it can help you understand your team a little bit better and help them. I am a published author. I've written many articles. I am actually part of a book from AHA. I think I contributed like a sentence or something. I am active presenter, speaker, and all those fun things. I do now own my own consulting company. I left full-time practice management 5 years ago and became a veterinary practice management consultant, and helping, instead of one hospital, I get to help a lot of hospitals, and it allows me the flexibility to do things like this. So it's really fun for me. I wanted to thank a few managers who are on this to help me support the CVPM. So one of them is Kim Jacobs. She is a CVPM. She is also the secretary for the VHMA board. So she's the person that you may see her name a lot, and you may see her at conferences and things because she's part of that. Also Mary Kim, CVPM. I didn't see her sign in, but I'm not sure if she's on right now. She's also helping if you guys have questions. They have their own experiences they may be able to share with you. And last but not least is Susan Drever, who is the VHMA prep course for the CVPM prep course. She is a facilitator. So she is joining us today to share any tidbits that she may have. And if you are going to take the prep course, she will be your facilitator. So you'll be working with her. So thank you very much to all of you guys for joining. If you have any questions, you're welcome to throw them in the chat. Kim will answer them if there's something she can answer quickly, or we'll take a few side breaks and answer questions that you guys may have. So feel free to throw anything in the chat that you may want answered or you want questions about, because we're going to go through a lot of that. So this is a VHMA slide, and these slides are actually from the VHMA. So it is borrowed. I borrowed these slides from Susan Dement. She is the guru, all things CVPM. She's the person that you'll be reaching out to if you have questions. She answers everything. She let me borrow the slides. This is not officially, this talk is not officially sanctioned by the VHMA because it is my presentation and I have my own little anecdotes and things I might share, but it is borrowed from them. So it is their information. Okay, so I can't have you download the application because it doesn't work. If you try to click on it, nothing will happen. So Kim is going to put the link for the application in the chat. So feel free to grab it out of the chat at any time. And she'll put a few other links in there as well, things that you might want to reference or if you need help. So please take a look in the chat for any type of communication or updates to be able to help you. Okay, so what I would also love for you guys to do, if you can, I don't know if I can see all of your faces, maybe not because the slide's in the way, is if you want to put in the chat, if you're a member of the VHMA, so that we can get an idea of how many VHMA members are on this webinar right now. So I'd love to see if you're a member of the VHMA already, or you're thinking about becoming a member, I'd love to hear from you guys. So share that with us. So the VHMA is the Veterinary Hospital Managers Association, and it came about over 40 years ago, and it was basically trying to help promote practice management for veterinary hospitals. And now today we have over 4,500 members. They're a mixture of doctors, managers, supervisors, consultants. A lot of different people are a member of the VHMA, and it's a huge organization. So if you think management, you think VHMA, right? VHMA is also the only and sole accreditation association that has basically not credentialed, but done the certification for the CVPM. So if you're a CVPM, you got it from the VHMA. There is no other industry or company or association that is putting on the CVPM. It's just VHMA. So, all right, let's take a look and see how many of you guys are members of the VHMA. I'm going to take a quick look at the check. Oh, good. Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful. And there's a lot of you. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so in 1989, this is kind of where the CVPM designation came about. They discovered that they really needed to have a way of ensuring that we had well-trained and professional managers. And so they created the CVPM as a way of knowing that. And one thing I do want to kind of point out to you guys is the CVPM exam is different than maybe other programs. And one of the differences is something called the NCCA accreditation. And this is a certification like it basically accredits different programs that have qualified through their strict rules. So they have this, I love this, stringent standards of certification psychometric science. I don't know what that is. I had to learn about it when I was doing some of the test writing questions that we did. I still don't really understand it, but it basically means they had to put some strict standards and policies to ensure, you know, standards of security, confidentiality, and making sure the examination process was fair and no one could cheat and all those things. And so that accreditation sort of makes the CVPM exam stand out because not every test that you're going to take is accredited. So let's talk about what the difference between certificate and certification. A lot of you may have attended different programs that give you a certificate. You know, at the end of the program, you might take a test, you might not, but you get a certificate of attendance, a certificate of participation, or something like that. It's typically a short program. It might be a few days, it might be a couple hours, you know, maybe weeks, depending on what it is. But you're not continuing beyond that course. It's kind of, I think of it as like a one and done. So like I've been to AHA's programs. I've been to the VMI program from AHA. You go and you're there for 4 days. It's like a management training seminar. It's really fun. I enjoyed it. But when I'm done, I don't have to do anything to have that certificate. It just went and I got a certificate of participation or certificate of completion, I should say. That's basically what a certificate is. The certification program is where you're doing more. You have to recertify on a regular basis. You know, for example, I'm a certified compassion fatigue professional. I have to recertify and do continuing education every single year, or actually within like 3 years, you can do a certain amount of time, but you have to get recertified. You can't just do one and done. And that's how the CVPM exam is. You have to do ongoing things. You have to renew it. You have to maintain it with strict policies. You also had to go through a process to even sit for the exam. You couldn't just decide to do it one day. You actually had to do other things. So the certification part is what makes the CVPM also stand out differently than some of the other programs that have come out recently that are only a one and done course and you get a certificate at the end. Okay, so what are the advantages of that? A lot of people I've seen so many times on different Facebook groups like, am I going to get a raise if I become a CVPM? Why should I become a CVPM? So let's talk about what that looks like. And I would love for you guys to also share maybe why you're doing it in the chat if you're comfortable. So one, it's internationally recognized. Because it's existed for so long. We just celebrated our 30th year with the CVPM last year, and that was so much fun. It was a great experience. So it is recognized throughout the country in both the United States and Canada and all of North America by different hospitals, different industries, you know, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say industries, but different, like AVMA understands what a CVPM is, you know, and different organizations within the veterinary industry understand. Not every individual practice owner may, because sometimes there's still some that haven't learned yet, but in general, it's professionally recognized. It means something to others. You have connections with so many different people. You have questions about it. You know, if you join the VHMA and go on Member Connect, you have all these questions you can get answered from people who know what they're talking about. It's a really great way to communicate. You expand your knowledge. I didn't know what I didn't know about practice management. I had been a practice manager for 5 years when I took the exam. I didn't know what I didn't know until I started studying for it. And I thought, oh my gosh, didn't know all these things. And so we think we do, but then when it comes down to it, a lot of us didn't. and we can learn more. And becoming a CVPM gives you more, not just the studying part, although that's essential. You get more with your recertifications and all the continuing education, all the things that you do. So that's one thing that I really feel is an advantage. And then increased compensation opportunities. When people ask, am I going to get a raise? Not necessarily. Your practice owner may not value it. So guess what? Go somewhere that does, or do something different with it. I could not be a successful practice management consultant today if I wasn't a CVPM, because people understand that I knew what I had to know to become that. You know what I mean? That sounds like a weird sentence, but they knew that they can see that it shows something. So if you wanted to do more with it, then using it to your advantage, and sometimes just proving, as Kim was mentioning earlier, proving that she could pass this exam. Sometimes that's a personal thing. It doesn't have to be to gain you more money. It can be a personal success for yourself, you know? So these are all the different advantages to becoming certified as a CVPM. And then sort of the roadmap. So what do you have to do? You have to qualify, you have to apply, you have to prepare to take the exam, and then you have to do your continuing education to keep your CVPM certification after you passed. So let's talk about the qualify. So I'm going to move my Zoom just a little bit because it's sort of blocking. There we go. All right. Okay. So active employment as a veterinary practice manager for at least 3 years within the past 7. So that means that you have to be doing the duties of a practice manager for at least 3 years within your past 7. So it doesn't really matter which part of the past 7, as long as it's within that time frame. You have to have 18 college credit hours in management related courses. So I'm going to pause here for a second, because I know a lot of people think, oh my gosh, I didn't take any business classes. I have college, but I didn't do this and whatever. You don't necessarily have to do just business. My bachelor's degree is in animal science. I took 1 accounting class in college, and that was it. So what I did is I sent my transcripts to Susan at the VHMA, Susan Dement, the one that sent me the slides. And her email address, by the way, because you might want this, is susan@vhma.org. And I sent her my information to see, do any of these count? And guess what? I had a speech class that I took that counted towards management, because we're always doing meetings with our teams, right? That requires speaking in public. I had an economics class that I took. That also counts, because that is business. I had a government class and a civics class and a computer class that I took. All these courses counted towards management, even though they weren't accounting and they weren't specific saying business, they counted. So definitely, if you have any college, send your transcripts to Susan and see if it counts. And if it doesn't, then she'll tell you. Okay, next, you have to have 48 hours of continuing education courses. So that's basically anything devoted to practice management. So you really, if you're a technician and you've taken a bunch of things on kidney disease, that's not going to count. But if you have taken something on controlled drug courses, that might count. But if you're not sure, again, send it to Susan and see which courses can count towards practice management, CE. And the college credits don't have a time frame. So if you graduated 20 years ago, you can still count those. But the CE does have a time frame. Your CE has to be done within the past 3 years. So that has a different time frame than others. And then you also need 4 letters of recommendation. And they have specific criteria for who you ask to recommend you. And you send the person that you're going to use the information, and they do it and send it to the VHMA directly. So it doesn't go through you. And in the application, it actually explains that more in detail. So I added this really quickly here, because one thing, when they say that you need to be a practice manager for 3 years, there is reasons for that, because they want you to have done a lot of duties. So they have a list of 30 duties that you need to have completed in order to qualify for the exam, but you only have to technically qualify or have done 26 of those duties. So as long as you've done 26 of those, that can count towards you sitting for the exam. For example, one of them is like ordering equipment. I did not order equipment at my first practice. My practice owner took care of that. I did not. I also did not do all the financials at my first practice. So things like that, if you've got 2 that you can remove, it's okay, as long as you've done 26 of the 30 duties. And I put a picture of an example, the first page of what the duties sort of look like. So it's practice management experience. So it kind of says staff development and create and play like a staff manual. Well, you've started a new practice, and that practice may already have a manual that was created by someone else. Well, that's okay, as long as you're maintaining that manual, meaning that you're training on it, you're making sure all your new people are onboarded on those manuals and you're utilizing it, you can count it as part of what you've done as a manager. And so here are some other examples of staff maintenance, staff computer training, staff communication. There's a list of the 30 duties, and those duties are in the application, which I'm going to show you really quick. So we'll go. Where's my application? No, I think I've left the screen. Let's see. Is this, oh, you're not seeing it. All right, it's okay. We'll go back. You guys can look it up. So Kim did put the link to the application in the chat. So take a look at that, and then you can download everything for the application, download it for free. You do not have to be a member to download it. And then you can see what specific duties it's going to ask you for. Okay, so that's the first part, right? And then you apply. You're going to be notified by email after you apply, and they'll give you a link to do online registration. And then you're going to go through more. Then you're going to get a second link with a voucher and the instructions of doing the online web assessor and host location. Host location is where you go to take the exam. And so there's this whole process of web assessor that I did not have to do because when I took it, it was not online yet. I had to take it in person. So it's a little bit different today than it used to be, but they'll send you an email confirming everything that you need to know and that you need to do. Okay. Now, you have 2 years from the date of your application approval to take the exam. So even if you get approved today, you don't have to take it tomorrow. You can take it in 6 months or a year or whatever. You have up to 2 years to do it. The examination is offered at multiple times at different testing centers and throughout North America and Canada, or I guess North America is Canada, I'm sorry. You can take it at any of those locations. And candidates may only take the exam once during the application or administration cycle. So I have it a picture. These are the 2024 examination dates, right? So the first one is in January. So if you look, the cycle for that exam is January 22nd through 27th. The application deadline was September 1st. So if you wanted to take it in January, I'm sorry to say you can't unless you already applied because that's closed. The next deadline for the next testing cycle is December 1st. So you still have time for that one. That testing cycle is April 15th through the 20th. So you can take it anytime within those days, but you can only take it once within those days. But you can take the actual test as many times as you wanted to. So going back, if you look at the bottom, you can only take it once in the cycle, but you can take it multiple times on your own. You just have to pay a fee every time you take it. Are there any questions so far, Kim, that we should address? I'll pause right here. I think she's checking.
Melissa, did everybody see what Susan said, that 50% of the CE has to be face-to-face?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Susan. I was going to talk about that later, but that's perfect. So it's not all online. You can't do it here. Actually, here, I don't have any credit for this test today. I'm sorry. It's not really CE in that sense. But yes, 50% needs to be in person. So if you're in an area where you have access to CE, I would take advantage of it, especially if you can go in meetings, things like that. And then I would take advantage of doing some of the conferences. You know, if you're able to go to a VHMA conference or the VHMA management exchanges, those are really great ways to get the CE. If you can't, go to your state or local CE as well, those local conferences, AHA conferences, you know, VEX, all those ones that have practice management, you can go to those and use those. And they're really, really helpful. Any other questions, Kim? Are we good? Okay. All right. So what about preparing the exam? Now, I know we've skipped some steps because we haven't talked about studying yet, but we're going to go back to that one. So on the day of the exam, and I don't know, there's someone in this session today who's actually taking the exam next week. And if you would like to share, feel free, unmute yourself and shout out. I'm not going to call you out just in case you don't want to. It's okay. But preparing, okay, go ahead. She unmuted.
Hey, I'm Margie and I'm taking it on Monday. So
yay, we're so excited for you. So excited. So these are the rules, which you probably already know. When you go to take the test, it's at a testing center, right? They do not let you bring a bunch of stuff into the test with you. They have lockers that you can put your personal stuff on the outside. They're going to give you a note paper. And it's, when I took my PHR California, it was a really weird note paper. It wasn't normal. It was like this, I don't know, it was weird. But they give you a note paper. They'll give you a pencil or a pen to write on. Typically, they will not give you a calculator. So, and yeah, I would recommend having a calculator because there is going to be calculations on the exam, right? The inventory turnovers and all those kinds of things. So, but it has to be a basic level calculator. You're not going to be able to use your phone. You're not going to be able to use a scientific calculator. It has to be like a cheap $5 calculator from Staples or something like that. So make sure you have it because you're going to need it. But everything else is going to be locked on the outside. You're not going to get to take it in with you. They're very strict about that stuff because they have to be, because this accreditation is so important. And also those testing centers are not just testing for us, people that are taking their LSATs their MCATs, their SATs, you know, all the different credentialing tests that people have to do to become a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever. They're those testing centers as well. So they take the security really seriously. In fact, I know people who took virtual testing during COVID and they couldn't go into the testing center, and they had very specific rules about how long you had to be on screen and the angles. And it was like it was crazy. So they're very strict about these things. So just be prepared. Do not try to bring anything extra because you're not going to get to. Okay. So as far as taking the exam, let me make this shrink. There we go. Okay. The exam is composed of true, false, multiple choice. I personally like multiple choice better. I feel like I do better with that. True, false, I'm always like, second guessing it, but that's just me. But the questions are going to be regarding human resources, law and ethics, marketing, organization of the practice, and finance. And the majority of the questions are traditional knowledge-based multiple choice, but there are some scenario questions. And those are not my favorite, but some people love them. But the scenario questions are basically going to give you a story. They're going to give you a paragraph that tells you about something. And then you have to say, if this, then that. You know, if this is what happened, then I'm going to do this next or whatever. And so you have to walk through the scenario of whatever that story is. You have to say what the right answer is. And the right answer is not necessarily your personal opinion. It's what you've learned during the course of studying for your CVPM exam. It's what a CVPM would do. So the scenario questions are really tricky. So those are ones that you should definitely pay attention to when you're studying, or learn how to analyze and think about differently, because those are not quite as easy as some of the others. The total number of questions may vary, but the maximum amount of points on any exam is 200. And then the questions are worth 1 point. A lot of the questions are worth 1 point, but some of them may be worth more, like the scenario questions, because they're harder. They're worth more. You have 3.5 hours to complete the exam, and you can take the whole time, or you can do whatever, however you study. And one thing I will say, when I took it, I used earplugs because I wanted to focus. And my earplugs had a little strap on them because they were the kind that you can hang from your neck so you don't lose them. And they had to make sure that I did not have any electronic wires in my earplugs. So that was pretty serious. And that wasn't even at a testing center. That was actually at the management exchange where they were checking it. So you're welcome to use those kinds of things, but you just have to make sure you can prove it's not feeding you something in your ears. And you can take as much time as you need to during the exam. Okay, so this is the domain. These are basically the categories of things and the percentages of those categories. So if you see HR is your biggest category, 30% of the exam is going to be on HR. 24% of it is going to be on law and ethics. 17% for finance and marketing, those are equals. And organization of the practice is only 12%. So when you're studying, I'm a person who likes to study everything equally. That's just me. But if you're going to put more weight on things, that's basically the weight. That's the weighted averages of those domains of what percentages that you need to be aware of. Okay. So now step 3, preparing to take the exam. When you're in the exam, you're going to find out right away after you hit submit. And I know my friend Rhonda found out on the screen. When I took my PHR California, I actually had to walk out of the testing area and go find out. I don't know if it's different because I did not take my CVPM online. I'm not sure, or if it was just how that testing center did it. So I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that. If you're all going to find out on screen, if you have to walk out of your testing center, I don't know, or walk out to the front desk is where I found out if I passed or not. I don't know that, but
it shows up right away as
it
soon
does.
as you
Okay,
take it.
So then my PHR California was just different in how I showed, because it did not show us that. So you'll find out right away. And then the pass fail standard, the minimum passing score for each score, I can't talk after a bit, for each exam is set by criterion reference methodology. Again, those things that I'm not qualified to answer on what that means, but there's no curve. That's the biggest takeaway. You're not competing against someone else. You're competing against yourself. And if Susan has more knowledge about the criterion reference methodology, I would love for her to type it in the chat and share. Since she is a facilitator for the course, she is a lot more connected to this exam than I am, since I have not taken it for years. And I have done question writing, where if you become a CVPM, you should do it at least once, and you kind of see what the process is to create the questions. It's super complicated. It's not easy. It was kind of fun. But anyway, okay, so this one I'm not going to go over. This is just basically telling you how they rate everything and how they weigh everything and all that. So I'm going to skip over this slide because I don't know if anybody cares anyway. You might, but you can read it because it's on the website too. Okay, so let's look at the study guide and recommended reading list. And hopefully I can find it in my share. I might have to move my Zoom. All right, can you guys see something that says study guide and recommended reading lists? Is that on your screen? Kim's telling me if you can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Wait, okay, so I'm going to scroll down. So basically, you're going to download this, and you're going to download the application from the VHMA site. And this is going to have all of the details of what I just kind of talked to you about. It's going to talk about the human resources, the law and ethics, the marketing, organization, practice, finance. And then it's going to give you your job task analysis outline. So it's going to even define it even more. And see, there are lots of details on here. It's got the blueprint, which the weight you already looked at. And then here, it's going to have the recommended reading list, which you're going to click on online. I'll go back to that in just a moment. And then the other thing is there's a lot of laws that you have to learn. And I'm going to tell you, if you're in California, you have to throw out everything you know and memorize only these, because our laws are not the same as the test questions for the CVPM, because the CVPM is federal. It's nationwide. The Canadian candidates have their own exams. So if I scroll down, you can see Canadian candidates have different tests because obviously they have different rules. So when you study for this, you're going to have to throw out everything that you know, which may not apply federally. And so all of these are going to be the laws you have to look up. And there's a lot, and it's a lot of information, but actually it's beneficial to know if you haven't looked yet. And then if you want to know it for California, you're going to have to go look at it on a different site, because you're going to look on the California site and not the federal one. So there's lots of stuff on here. You can see age discrimination in employment, Americans with Disabilities, Equal Pay Act, National Labor Relations Act. There's all these, Title VII, all these things that you have to memorize for this exam. I liked doing the laws because I thought they were fun. Maybe I'm weird, but I did actually kind of enjoy it. But there's a lot. So make sure that you download the study guide and recommended reading list. Now I'm going to see if actually, all right, hang on. Let me see if I can you now see another screen that is recommended reading list, but what is it, a white screen? Can you see that?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So these are the materials for studying. So the other page was, hang on one second. I have a weird issue. I have a speaker that decided to turn on. I don't know why. Okay. So the other screen was basically links and websites you're going to go to look up those laws. But this is your reading list. This is what you're going to need to purchase, or maybe have a vendor buy it for you, or maybe share with another friend who's taking a CVPM exam, all these books. So the first one is Blackwell's Veterinary Management Practice Consult, which I have. I don't know if you can see it because I have a different background, but this is a really, really good book. I've referenced it actually many times since I took the exam to answer other questions that I may have. I do highly recommend that book. Blackwell's 5-minute veterinary practice management consults. There's also the complete veterinary practice regulatory compliance manual. That's really great. It's all things OSHA. And it's an awesome. Phil Siebert is a very knowledgeable guy. Hang on a second. Okay. And then you also have the effective marketing manual. And that's another good read. I did not have to study that one for my exam, but I did read some of it, and it's pretty interesting. It's pretty good. Financial Management of the Veterinary Practice, Front Office Management for the Veterinary Team by Heather Prendergast, Inventory Management, Law and Ethics of the Veterinary Profession, Practice Made Perfect. I have this book. This one, when I studied, it was a purple book. Now it's a different one. But it was honestly what I would consider like kind of the Bible of veterinary practice management. Even if you weren't taking the exam, I would think every manager should read that book because it's so helpful. And then, of course, there's the standards for AHA hospitals, standards abbreviations for veterinary medical records, and then the VHMA Code of Ethics, which you want to memorize, and then also the principles of veterinary medical ethics. And I think this is a really good one to use to teach your team, to understand why you do some of the things that you do. Why do you have a VCPR? What is a VCPR? What is an consulting veterinarian, or what is your attending? All those questions of things that we logically know, you can find on the principles of veterinary medical ethics from the AVMA. And I've actually had staff meetings where we went over in depth why we did some of the things that we did. So I actually like that one for that too, as well as learning it for the exam. Okay, so let's go back to this. So now there's other things besides that study guide. There's also a CVPM prep workbook and webinar. That's $229. The CVPM prep workbook with iBook version is also $229. There's digital flashcards, independent study. There's also study groups, and there's something called the VHMA test prep program, which is $595. That's 11 weeks. Susan, would you like to do a plug for the VHMA test program if you're still able? You're still on the.
Yeah, I'm here. It's all good.
Plug for that.
So I took the test prep program during the height of COVID because nothing says deal with a global pandemic like find something else to focus on. So I found it so helpful for me to really focus my studies. And something that's really, I put it in the chat, but important to understand is I'm completely insulated from any test question writing. I don't know the criteria for scoring. I don't know any of that. We just basically take the blueprint for the exam and that list of topics and go to the recommended reading list and present information based on that. And that's what we're really just helping you focus your studies on the blueprint of the test. And it's also a good accountability measure because you're making an appointment with yourself once a week to sit on Saturday morning and spend an hour and change with either me or Amy Williams, who's the June facilitator. And you're with a group of people who are doing the same thing you are. And I've seen study groups evolve in my classes, and I love that. They will meet after our session and talk about the questions in the workbook and work through everything. And it's just a really great way to get a support system and accountability for yourself throughout the program. So I found it so helpful. And in my former life, before I was voluntold into this position, I was a software trainer. So I would teach people how to use computers, and I missed using that part of my brain. So I applied to become one of the facilitators, and I have so much fun doing it for 11 weeks. And I'm like, okay, I'm good for a while, but it's a lot of fun for me. I enjoy it so much. And I invite everybody, if you can make it happen, do it. It's a great way to help focus what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
When I took the test, the VHMA hadn't created their own study course yet. So I took the VSPN course, which I liked. I've heard it's changed since when I took it, so I can't say that I would recommend it now. The teacher that I have is no longer doing that. But I do think what the biggest thing I got from when I took a study course was it really helped me organize the information, because they give you books and you have to, you've got like 6 books to read, and a lot of the information overlaps. So when I took the courses or the course, it basically said, okay, read these chapters in this book, and this book, and it all applied to HR. So it really helped me organize my materials. And I don't know that I would definitely not have been as successful if I had not had that organizational help, because like,
Absolutely.
so I think that was sort of essential for me.
Melissa, I don't think VSPN is offering it anymore.
Okay,
I would have to double check that. But I agree completely. There is no way I would have been able to pass this test without a study course. So if any of y'all are looking to take this test, I 100% recommend that you take a study course somewhere of some kind, VHMA, whatever. Take a study course. Do not try to take this test without a study course of some kind.
Yes, I agree. It really does help you. Margie, did you take a prep course for right now when you're taking the test next Monday?
Yes, I ended up taking the VHMA course just recently with Amy Williams, and she was fantastic. Wealth of information. It's kind of like getting your information through a fire hose, so it comes at you, but you're able to like someone just said, that you're able to kind of organize your thoughts and maybe process it a little bit better. So I absolutely agree that it is instrumental in passing. Well, I haven't passed yet, but I'm planning on it.
Excellent. No, good plug. And by the way, I'm not getting paid anything for the VHMA to talk about this or plug the course or any of that. I get no benefits to this, but I'm just a firm believer in sharing. Mary, I see your face. Do you wish
Yes.
to add? I haven't seen.
Hi. Yeah. So I actually also did the VHMA course, and I did mine back in 2019. So it was really helpful. I can't imagine having passed the test without taking this course.
Excellent. Thank you. I did not put the course dates in the slideshow, but if you go on to the VHMA website, it does have the course session dates and stuff, so you can look that up. But I think we're all plugging to take the course because I know how much it could really benefit. It can't hurt you, that's for sure. And then also, if you are a member of VHMA, for a lot of you said you were, you can go on Member Connect and ask questions. People will answer them. If you're part of the Orange County Managers Facebook page, you can also ask questions there. We have a ton of CVPMs in our network too. So you're welcome to go wherever people can help you and ask those good questions. I did not use the CVPM prep workbook, so I don't know if anybody that would like to plug for that, because I did not personally use it, but it's a tool designed to help guide you through your process of asking you questions. You fill it out. I don't know if anyone who has used it wants to do a shout out for that, because I don't have any experience with it, but it is something you can use to study with. So we can see. Okay. All right. So you're welcome to look at purchasing that. It also comes with the webinar too. And then lastly, after you pass your exam, then you have to do your continuing education. Every 2 years, you have to have at least 48 hours of continuing education, and 50% of that has to be in person. So make sure that you're paying attention to that when you're doing your recertification. Don't wait till the last minute, as I know some managers have done, and they're like, oh crap, I have to renew in 2 months and I haven't done any CE. So you've got 2 years to do it, side spread it out. Again, if you're in California, we have a ton of CE down here. If you're other places, it might be a little bit harder, but I would recommend VHMA or Fetch or, IVEX or Western, although Western's, I like it. It was fun, whatever. Anywhere that you can get good practice management CE every 2 years to make sure that you can fill that 48 hours. One thing that's new that's come about in the last few years is there's different scholarship opportunities for people. So because it is expensive to take the exam, and if your practice owner is not willing to help that, it could be on you. If you do have a supportive practice owner, I would 100% ask them to support you by paying for the exam or paying for the prep course or paying for something. I would even talk to reps. If you have a good vendor or rep that you're friends with, maybe they're willing to buy you one of the study books. I would try to borrow money from that in some way, but there's also scholarship opportunities through VHMA's Emerging Leaders Program. They have a scholarship for their emerging leader, and the VMG/Zoetis scholarship. So those can also help with some of the costs of earning your CVPM. So you can go to the VHMA website to look up more of those details and how you can get financial assistance. And then where's to find, this is basically a list. Everything that we kind of just went through on these slides is from vhma.org. So if you go to the website, which I know Kim put some of the links in the chat, if you didn't sign in, maybe Kim, you could redo them again, because I don't know now if you can see old chat messages. I don't really know. They've changed Zoom, so I'm not sure. But if you wanted to look it up, click on it, follow it. It's pretty easy to follow the link to the CVPM certification. You can learn all the things that you didn't learn yet and what to click on. And we already talked about the recommended reading list. So any questions? Kim, are there any questions in the chat that we should respond to?
Not yet.
Okay. So if anybody has a question, feel free to type it in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself and ask. This is a crash course on how to become a CVPM. All right, so I'm going to go out of here. Okay, so there we go. So I stopped sharing my screen. Okay, any questions anybody has? There's also a fact screen on the VHMA site, which is kind of helpful. Like, do you have to have the title of practice manager to take the exam? And no, you do not. The biggest takeaway is you have to do at least 26 of those 30 duties from the list. And that's kind of the biggest thing. If you do those duties, even if your title is office manager, then you could qualify to take the exam. And there's just different questions about your application deadlines and things like that. So anyone else? Hi, Nikki. Hi, Brenda. I see more people's names now that the screen went bigger. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. I knew it was going to be too long of a session. As Kim just put in Susan's email again, because Susan is the VHMA CVPM guru, and she's so helpful. She'll help you if you have questions. Just ask her, do I have to take college again? Do I have to take more CE? Whatever those questions are, she'll help you with that. And then one thing too, on the letters of recommendation, I can't remember the specific categories. So the topic, so Nikki's asking, how do we know if a CE is acceptable for certification or recertification? So it depends. So if it's through a VHMA program, then you usually can submit it and then they'll accept it because they know what the VHMA stuff was, right? Or what the session was about. If you took it from an outside program, let's say you went to a VMG course and you took a management session, I would keep a copy of what the session included, like their description of the session, because the VHMA may ask to show what the session was about. So sometimes the title may be enough, but they may actually need additional information. So if you can keep a copy of those descriptions, that will be helpful. If you aren't sure, again, email Susan at susan@vhma.org, and she'll tell you what can count towards the management CE certification, because it's not crazy specific, because I think HR is probably going to count. But when I take a California HR class, I don't know if that would count towards my CVPM, because CVPM is not specific to California. So that would be something I'd have to actually ask Susan. I've never tried to overlap. I do them separately, but it's a fair question. But you can definitely keep a copy of the description of the session or the CE, excuse me, and then send it to Susan.
So Melissa, this is Susan again. I just did a full day Texas Workforce Commission conference for employers, and that was acceptable. So I'd imagine your California stuff would be as well.
Yes. And if you ever wonder before you register, you can send that to Susan too, and she'll let you know before you spend your money and register that yes, this would be accepted.
Yeah, she is really responsive, guys. I know people are weirded out by emailing strangers, but she really will help you. She has no ill intent. She wants everybody to be able to do this, and she wants the program to be successful. So she's absolutely gonna help you. Don't even question it. Just send her your questions and she'll answer them. I promise. So yeah, definitely she's a really good resource, and then you can do whatever you need to do and ask her those questions. Anything else? I know I was thinking of something, but now I forgot what it was.
There's a question. What do you think about the Penn Foster CVPM program from Shelby?
I haven't done it, but I know a lot of the teachers in Penn Foster, or no, I was thinking of Patterson. I'm sorry.
Penn Foster.
I know I was flipping it in my head. They both have P's, you know. The Penn Foster, I haven't heard anything bad, but I haven't known anyone that took it personally for me to ask if they had a good experience with it. If you're doing it because you need college credits, I think it does count for that. And you don't have any college credits, it's probably fine. Because otherwise, I do think it's obviously more specific than if you went to a junior college and took some random courses that aren't specific to veterinary. So in the sense of it helping you with maybe being specific to your day-to-day job, I can see that being a benefit, but I don't know the cost. And like I said, I don't have anyone who has personal experience with it to say whether it was good. So if you take it, then I'd love for you to report back on whether you liked it or not, because I don't know anyone.
Melissa's got her hand up like she knows something.
Go for it.
So I have completely fallen off the tracks, but I did sign up for it probably a year ago. And I was going hard for a little while and then stopped, but it was really helpful. There was a lot of you can go at your own pace. There was a lot of good good interactive meetings. So like I said, I haven't finished it yet, but it personally was really helpful and specific, obviously, to what we're doing.
Okay.
So one of the things I want to throw in there as a practice manager, back when I was doing the VSPN course and the VHMA course, they're not go at your own pace. You meet on this day, you meet on this week, you do it for this time. Anything that's go at your own pace, I feel like as a practice manager, it's going to get pushed aside. It's going to
100%.
it's going to be, oh, well, I've got to do payroll. I can do this later. Or my family needs dinner. I can do this later. If it is a meeting that you have to attend or you're not going to finish it, and either your company or yourself or somebody has some skin in the game because they paid for it, you're going to finish it and you're going to get it done. But if it's go at your own pace, we're going to be more likely to, oh, I can finish it later. I 100% recommend go with something that you have a deadline that you have to finish it by this time.
I agree with you on that. But
Not to knock it, but
yeah, no,
Right.
because when Andrew and I took our VSPN, every Monday or Tuesday, whatever the day was on, I went to her hospital because she had a conference room, and we did the course every week till it was done.
Every Tuesday we were there at 7:30, I told my husband, hey, it's class time. I've got to go. And I went into another room and I sat down, I turned on my computer and I was there every Tuesday night. I'm sure Susan can tell us every whatever night her people are there because they've got skin in the game. Somebody's paid for that course, a lot of money for that course. And it's however many weeks for those days. Because, but something that you just said it, you fell off the wagon a little bit.
A
And you
lot.
paid for that course.
Were you doing it
And it's-
because you needed college credits?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's harder because the VHMA course doesn't help you with the college credit part. But the Penn Foster course will. So if you need those.
Yeah.
And so-
I wish they would make it like, here's your time limit.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100, yeah, because like I said, I have not probably gotten online and for that in probably like 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
There's no accountability.
The same thing with other things I signed up for.
Yeah,
Probably $500 total and I haven't done
yeah.
any. I'm not fear-free certified yet, guys. I've been trying for 3 years. So, one thing before we go, I would love to get a picture. If anyone is not on camera but can be, I always try to do like pictures with, I don't know, something's happening. All right, thank you. My dogs are losing their minds because something, I'm gonna